this sun is eventually going to be directly in my eyeballs, and then it's going to get very dark very fast. Oh well. Hi, I'm Madelin, or just Maddie, and the Goodreads Choice Awards system has flaws. It's flawed. The system is flawed because it is highly unlikely, dare I say impossible, that any person has read every single book nominated in every single category that year, or even every book nominated in a single category, or even honestly a single book at any point in their lives. So you can't know that you are awarding the best books. You just know that you're awarding books that a lot of people have probably read, and that makes it what? A popularity contest. And there are things far more important than popularity. For example, my own personal thoughts and opinions. So welcome to my 2022 reading recap, also known as the Madsreads Choice Awards. First off, here are all the books I read this year in a somewhat nice looking grid probably. Don't talk to me about alignment, don't talk to me about perfect organization. Graphic design is not my passion. I have no passions, I'm dead inside. But here are the books. How much room do they need? Books. One of many differences between the Madsreads Choice Awards and the Goodreads Choice Awards is that our nominees are not all new releases. In fact, only a handful of them are. They're just the books that I read this year that I feel like giving meaningless awards to. Another difference is that we are not limiting ourselves to categories based on genre. Who wants to do that? And also, genre is somewhat subjective. One time I was talking about music with some guy, and he was trying to get me to explain to him the difference between soft rock, classic rock, and yacht rock music, and I just left and we never spoke again. So who really cares about genre? Instead, I made up categories based on what I felt like talking about because I wanted to nominate as many of my beautiful books as possible. So sure, we have some genre categories, but we also have things like biggest sad trombone noise disappointment and best book with a girl in a dress on the cover. But we are going to start with a genre category first. Let's talk about memoirs. Our nominees are Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases by real-life detective and hot dad Paul Holes. He was one of the detectives on the Golden State Killer case. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which details her life as a child actor and her relationship with her super messed up mom. In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, a very moving exploration of the author's experience with intimate partner abuse. And Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner, a story about culture and grief and mother-daughter relationships, and the author is the musician behind Japanese Breakfast, which I didn't realize until I was like a decent way through the book, so that was fun for me. This was a strong category, which is kind of weird because I don't think I had read any memoirs for several years before this year, and now I have a handful that are all really good. It was a tough choice, but the powers that be have decided to give the award for Best Memoir to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This book really blew my socks off. It's super well written, but it also gets a bonus point because it touches on a subject that I get kind of heated about, which is when parents exploit their children for financial gain. Don't do that. I think everybody should read this book. I know a lot of people already have because it won the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Memoir this year. Is it ironic that I'm also giving it my fake award? Maybe, don't care. But I especially think any influencer or TikTok celebrity or person who is actively profiting off of publicizing their offspring's entire childhood, like for the world to see, should be duct taped to a chair and forced to listen to the audiobook because maybe Jeanette's story would help them rethink their whole shtick a little bit. Maybe they're too far gone. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, excellent memoirs all around. Our next category is Best Nonfiction Non-Memoir Book. I'm really hammering in that I read nonfiction. I just don't want there to be any confusion about whether or not I'm better than everybody else. And now for the nominees. First up is Under the Banner of Heaven by Jon Krakauer. It's a Mormon murder story mixed with Mormon history, and it is also now a mini-series with Andrew Garfield that I haven't watched despite that being the whole reason I read this book in the first place. Grunt, The Curious Science of Humans at War by Mary Roach. It's an exploration of different interesting aspects of the armed forces, from the fashion and textiles department to the difficulties caused by things like extreme heat and diarrhea. Also by Mary Roach, Fuzz, When Nature Breaks the Law. Takes a look at animal mischief and outright attacks and the specialists who try to prevent or mitigate or deal with the fallout from all that kind of stuff. The Trauma Cleaner, One Woman's Extraordinary Life in the Business of Death, Decay, and Disaster by Sarah Krasnostein. This book tells the story of a woman's life. She's got the craziest background, but now she has a business where she does like hoarder house cleanouts and crime scene cleanups and that kind of thing, and it's just wild. And last we have How to Keep House While Drowning by Casey Davis. The author's a therapist who has ADHD, and the book talks a lot about how to be kinder to yourself regarding care tasks, so cooking, cleaning, that kind of stuff, and how that can help make everything more manageable. Again, a pretty strong category, but we are giving it to Fuzz When Nature Breaks the Law by Mary Roach. I want to be Mary Roach when I grow up. It's hard to even do her books justice because to be like, okay, nonfiction about animals who break the law, like what is that actually going to be like? But she makes everything so witty and funny and engaging, and she finds the coolest, most unique perspectives on things and finds the most interesting people to talk to who have these crazy specialties. She finds a way to make it understandable but also entertaining. So thanks to this book, I could now go on a rant about how bears are way too smart for their own good and why that's such a problem in places like Colorado. I could talk about how monkeys have learned to take our cell phones and wallets hostage when we visit temples as tourists because they know that we will give them literally anything they want in order to get those back. And it's just funny and interesting and taught me things and made me laugh. And I just love Mary Roach. And if you're looking for a new nonfiction sort of writer to follow along with, all of her books are really good and I highly recommend them. But yeah, congratulations Fuzz. Congratulations Mary. Well done. Next we have our nominees for best mystery / thriller / unsettling books. Screw you, I'm in charge of the categories. The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Old friends with mysterious secrets reunite for a wedding on a remote Scottish island and someone goes missing. The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. Old friends with mysterious secrets reunite for New Year's Eve at a remote cabin and someone goes missing. The Gracier by Kim Liggett, Lidgett, or Leger. A dystopian story where teenage girls are traditionally sent away for a year to live in isolation to quote-unquote get rid of their magic. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. A Girl is Gone. Notes on an Execution by Daniel Kafka. A death row prisoner's story is told primarily through the perspectives of the women affected by his actions. And last, The Silent Patient by Alex Nicolaides. A woman killed her husband and then stopped speaking, and a therapist wants to know why. And the Madsreads Choice Award for best mystery / thriller / sort of unsettling book, screw you, I'm in charge of the categories, is Notes on an Execution. I, like many other people who match my demographics, am fascinated by true crime. I know that's becoming more of a controversial space, but I personally believe there are ways to tell those stories that are still respectful to the actual victims, the actual families, the actual people impacted by those events. Notes on an Execution is obviously a novel, but I was still really impressed with how the author went about telling not a true crime story, but a crime story, a murder story, in a way that still put the victims, the people, at the center of it. It focused on the women, it focused on their stories, and I liked that. The book also does a good job giving you enough about the killer's background and things that happened in his childhood and throughout his life that may have contributed to his future actions, but doesn't go as far as to excuse those actions or to try to make him like sympathetic. And I thought that was very well done also. And on top of that, the book makes that killer a scary character, sure, but it doesn't go as far as making him a monster. Like, we're not dealing with Hannibal Lecter or Voldemort here, or even the whole thing where it's like, he was so charismatic, they simply couldn't resist, they were entranced, and then they died. He's just a dude. Like, he's just some guy. And that's the thing with even true crime stories. We talk about these serial killers, and they did absolutely horrible things, but at the end of the day, anyone doing anything like that is still just a person. They were born, they lived, and they're gonna die. It's just some dude. But yeah, definitely in my top 3 books of the year. I really like Notes on an Execution a lot. All right, let's talk about fantasy books. First is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. A prince's bastard is abandoned at the castle and has to find his place in the world of politics and magic. Fire and Blood by our buddy George R.R. Martin. It's the story of the first bit of the Targaryen dynasty in Westeros. If you watched House of the Dragon on HBO, the events of House of the Dragon are like this much of Fire and Blood. Also by George R.R. Martin, we have A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, also known as The Tales of Dunk and Egg. It's technically 3 novellas, but I read it as a compilation, and they tell the stories of the adventures of a hedge knight named Sir Duncan the Tall and his little squire named Egg, who has a secret connection to the Targaryen royal family. I'm grouping these all together. The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing, all by Holly Black. It's the Folk of the Air series, and it tells the story of a human girl who has been raised in the fairy world for most of her life, and she gets embroiled in politics, and also there's a guy, and he has a tail. And last is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. An orc starts a coffee shop. I saw it described by one reviewer as like Animal Crossing, but with monsters, and that feels right to me. And the award for Best Fantasy Book goes to Assassin's Apprentice. Listen, I liked the Folk of the Air series a lot. The problem maybe is that I mowed through them like branches through a wood chipper while I was floating in a pool this summer, and maybe as a result of that, I retained shockingly little of the actual plot of the series. I know I liked it, but it just didn't stick in my brain very much. So Assassin's Apprentice is fresher in my mind, and that maybe gives it a leg up on Folk of the Air. So stands don't come for me. I'm sorry. I'm one of you. But Assassin's Apprentice it gets the award. It gets the award. It's a great book though. I just got the second one from the library, so we'll see how the series continues. But so far, I'm super intrigued. There are definitely kind of your core fantasy elements in it. It's got the young person dropped into unfamiliar circumstances. It's got some wise old folks helping the young person develop some skills that will help them on their quest. It's got some special abilities. It's got political intrigue. So it's got kind of those table stakes things, but I still found that I wasn't ever able to predict like, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen next. Like, it kept me guessing, and I appreciated that. So it was familiar but fresh, and I liked that. Our next list of nominees is pretty short. It's for Best Classic. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. A creep is obsessed with a 12-year-old girl. And Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Scarlett O'Hara is a terrible person, and the American Civil War is a terrible time to be alive for pretty much everyone in the country. I liked both of these, but I'm giving the award to Lolita. I think people get scared away from Lolita because of the subject matter. Like, yes, it is unpleasant to read about a grown man having the hots for a literal child, but there's something kind of refreshing about reading from the perspective of a character who objectively sucks and you are actively rooting against. Plus, the prose is incredible. It's got one of the best opening lines to any book, like, ever. One of my favorites for sure. And the prose throughout is just, it's so good. It makes me want to be better at writing. I was gonna read the opening line, but I got like halfway through and just decided that that was embarrassing for some reason, so instead I'll put a screenshot and you can read it to yourself. I'll wait. Isn't it good? Lolita is also a nominee in our next category, Biggest Surprise Hit. A couple of names that we've already talked about. Lolita, Notes on an Execution, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms are nominated in this category, along with a new one, Normal People by Sally Rooney, which tells the story of two friends / more than friends who kind of struggle to define their relationship at different points in their lives. And we are giving the award for Biggest Surprise Hit to Normal People by Sally Rooney. All of our nominees in this category had a significant difference between how much I expected to enjoy them and how much I actually enjoyed them, but Normal People wins because that gap was the biggest. I feel like most people either really love or really loathe this book based on what I've seen, and in situations like that, I usually find myself falling into the latter category. Sit me with the haters. But I was surprised, actually, because that's the category, to find that I was getting very emotionally invested in this story. It did take me a second to get kind of used to Sally Rooney's writing style, because this is the first book of hers that I've read, but I was getting perhaps too invested emotionally at some points in this book, and it made my heart tired, but in kind of a good way. So yes, Normal People, big ol' surprise hit. On the flip side, we have the category Biggest Sad Trombone Noise Disappointment. A couple familiar titles to start this category out as well. We have The Gracier and Under the Banner of Heaven. A new nominee in this category is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which tells the story of a young woman who goes to visit her allegedly ailing cousin who lives in this creepy old house with her new husband and his family. And we also have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. Girl moves to a small town and is charmed by the local recluse hottie. And our biggest sad trombone noise disappointment of the year was Mexican Gothic. I'm not saying this is a terrible book or even the worst book out of all these nominees. It just had the biggest difference between how much I expected to enjoy it and how much I actually enjoyed it, and it was less. I think part of the thing was, I know that Gothic stories, which Mexican Gothic is a Gothic story, have some elements that repeat throughout books in that genre. Like, you've got your creepy house, you've got your creepy sick person, you've got your creepy uptight lady, you've got mysterious like nighttime noises, whatever. But in this book, I was expecting, since it's contemporary, for it to just feel like there was something different or something more. And there was some, but not a lot. And when that big twist or kind of like surprise thing did come, instead of being like, whoa, how did I not see that coming? Or like, oh my gosh, it didn't feel satisfying. My reaction was more like, okay, so it's this now. All right. I had to completely shift the way that I'd been thinking about the book. It didn't live up to the expectations that I had for it, and so it's my sad trombone noise. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, it's the best book with an illustrated couple on the front. Starting off strong, we have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. The President of the United States' son and the Queen of England's grandson have to have a PR friendship that blooms into something more. Anxious People by Frederick Backman. There's a hostage situation at an apartment showing, and it's funny and also heartwarming. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. A young woman with autism hires a male escort to help her become more comfortable with intimacy. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. A rich girl and her sister get sent to live in a small town in the Pacific Northwest, and also there's a guy. Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. The rich girl's sister also finds a guy. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. A big city literary agent runs into her nemesis while on a small town getaway with her sister. Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. A neuroscientist gets her dream gig with NASA, but she also has to deal with her nemesis from college. The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. A female personal protection agent gets assigned to bodyguard for a famous actor. Wow, there's so many. And our winner is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I'm gonna make a whole video going over some of the really awesome romances that I read in the last year, and Book Lovers is totally at the top of that list. I just really liked it. It's about, yeah, romance, but also family and home and like ambition and how your relationships change as you get older, and it was just so good. But the relationship part itself, if you're all about the romance, was also really good. Whenever I hear someone talk about like, oh, the banter between that couple in the book is so good, I'm usually like, I kind of doubt it. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hard to write banter, but Emily Henry knocked it out of the park with this one. It's two like smart, witty, clever people having a back and forth that seems realistic, but is also just like funny and cute. And it was so good that at one point I was like, are you guys flirting with me? Are you two book characters? Like, but the whole book is just fun and cheeky and clever and awesome, and I loved it. Time has flown and we are at our last category. Can you believe it? What a night. Day, evening, afternoon, I don't know, 4 in the morning. Our last category is Best Book with a Girl in a Dress on the cover. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A Hollywood Golden Age actress tells her life story to a reporter. Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, a multi-generational story of a Korean family in the early 1900s. Mexican Gothic, Hi, We Know Her, We Talked About Her. The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. A young woman balances ambition and family obligations in 1950s Jaipur. And the sequel, The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, also by Alka Joshi. And our winner of the best book with a girl in a dress on the cover goes to Pachinko. And I know it's a hanbok. I don't know if that would technically qualify as a dress. I know hanbok is kind of a broad category of traditional Korean clothing, but I'm calling it a dress for these purposes because I want to talk about this book. Pachinko broke my heart in the best possible way. I gasped out loud at one point. I almost cried at another point. It is a really beautifully written book, and it's just got so many of the things that I love in a historical fiction story. It follows how one generation's circumstances and trauma affect the next generation, and kind of on from there. It also taught me more about like a historical time period and a place in the world that I don't know that much about. So learning about the cultural tension between Korea and Japan in this time period was really interesting to me, and it was kind of a gap in like my historical knowledge, so then I felt smarter also. But this book has won a bunch of awards for many, many reasons, and now has also won a Madsreads Choice Awards. So congratulations, Pachinko. Everybody go read it. Big congratulations to all of our nominees and all of our award winners. Here is a little badge that you can put on the next reprint of your softcover editions. I will send a PNG to your agent to make it easier on you. To all of you watching, I wish you all the best in 2023 with your reading and with everything else, and I will be back with some more bullshit before you know it. So, like, subscribe, comment, stick around. I love you. I keep getting like just the tip of my nose into the sun. Boop, 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 boop.